Normally, when you end your questioning, that's the drop the mic moment. No further questions. And you leave the jury with that last statement. But that last statement that's left in the jurors' minds was so damaging to the defendant. That's why when you're a defendant, don't act as your own lawyer. You don't know what you're doing. And that was just devastating for her.
It really was. And you're right, Dave. And then she just kind of went and sat down. It was like, like she, it was just, I mean, Kay handed it to her, and then she just kind of went back down. Big mistake, as you said, representing herself. Even bigger mistake of Randy Kessler not getting a divorce, right? This all could have been avoided with a divorce. Your thoughts, Randy?
Much easier. Dave's got it right. There's that saying, a lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a client. He's right. That last question shouldn't have been, did you hear? It should be, you did not hear anything about me conspiring, period. Yes or no? Make it stronger. Also, the word that comes into my mind is smug. When you're representing yourself, you're on trial and you're testifying sort of, and they're judging her. I mean, it's just silly for her to represent herself. Yep. Don't ask this lady questions. All they have is circumstantial evidence, and you're letting these witnesses just talk and convict you. Mm-hmm. Get the witnesses off the stand. Be done.
Mm-hmm. Right, Randy. And thank you for going into professor mode, by the way. You're right. She doesn't know how to do a cross, so she's asking the open-ended questions, just inviting a response, calling it a murder, which we know is the big issue here, whether it was a murder, whether it was a killing in self-defense. And just so bad. I have another clip I want to play for you both. This one is when another person, him.
I don't know. To be honest, I'm listening to this case, and there's not a lot of evidence, in my opinion. There's not a lot of evidence that she's guilty of the murder of her husband, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but there's not evidence that she even though like she's greedy and stuff, and like she's in the other case in Idaho. In Idaho, she definitely was guilty of killing her kids and stuff. But in this case, I'm not convinced that she's guilty. Because there's no evidence that she conspired. What is the evidence? I just don't see it. It's he said, she said. But let's continue watching. It's circumstantial. There's no.
Kay, they are so strong. They're remarkable people. And here's where he got up on the stand, and this is where he's being redirected by the prosecutor.
When you were
I want to see Lori
talking to your family after this happened, did you actually tell them that you believed
technically she is testifying
Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles?
Yes.
Why was that?
Can you hear me, or should I use my mic?
Lori had told people that Charles was no longer living, that some guy named Ned was inside of his body, that there's a zombie living inside of him. And Alex didn't respond to any of my text messages when I was supposed to be with him. And he was at that house that morning.
Dave, let me go to you here. I want you to go into professor mode for us, please. So we know that there were some objections that could have been lodged there. An attorney like yourselves, would have objected here with the call for speculation, the call for the hearsay, all of that. It's in. How powerful was that? I mean, from her brother saying this is what he believed occurred here.
Devastating. It's amazing how one brother can be so good and the other one so evil, because he was saying that I never heard from my brother. He ghosted me. Then all of a sudden he shows up at Lori's house with a loaded gun and extra ammunition. So that's when the brother texted Charles Vallow that something's up. They're planning something. And to me, that shows premeditation, and the fact that they never told the good brother that what had happened. So you have Lori and Alex Cox just ghosting this good brother, and then after the murder, not even mentioning, oh, by the way, your brother-in-law was just killed at the house. It was self-defense, never mentioning it. So it's circumstantial evidence, but it's devastating evidence for Lori Vallow.
You're so right, Dave. It shows that premeditation there. You're right. You hit on it. Exactly. Randy, talk to me, please, about the big picture trying this case. Something Dave touched on really got me thinking. You know, we all are so familiar with this case, right? We've been talking about it for literally years together here on Court TV. So we know there's a good brother, like Dave said, the bad brother. Your bad brother's dead, good brother's alive. We have him on the program. Adam Cox is a great guy. He's been a great advocate for Tylee and JJ. He's their uncle. It's hard to follow all these people, isn't it, Randy? I mean, the connections, you know, Kay is Charles' sister, also JJ's grandma. Big picture trial advocacy, Randy, what could be done a little better by the prosecution to make sure the jury is understanding
she's still doing life,
all the players here in this family in the case?
And for your commentators on Court TV, right? How about a chart? How about a Venn diagram? How about who are the players?
She's not gonna win on what, no matter
like
what. Found guilty or not guilty.
But that's what jurors like, actually. I'm sort of facetious, but they're used to video. They're used to watching TV, TikTok, and they're seeing things explained simply to them. I think they should lay it out like that. And also, like Dave said, this is overwhelming circumstantial evidence. I was a good lawyer representing Lori Beth Daybell. I would be up there saying, this is all circumstantial. There's no direct evidence. Nobody heard her conspire. Nobody saw her. Nobody has any paper trail. But this overwhelming circumstantial evidence equals conviction.
Randy, thank you for that. You're spot on. The defense should be that no one witnessed this. She wasn't even there at the time. You know, just because she had some bad things in her past she did doesn't mean she did this homicide. She's sunk.
John B, what do you think about?
I'm going to be astounded if she wins this case. Which, right, Dave? Every prosecutor's nightmare if a pro se defendant meets you at trial. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, juries are notoriously unpredictable, but when you have a pro se defendant, as Randy knows, their goose is cooked. I mean, you have someone especially so unlikable as Lori Vallow Daybell. The only chance they ever have is to get some sympathy from the jury. This woman deserves and gets no sympathy from anyone.
Zero. Perfect note to end on. Dave, you're coming with us. Randy, thank you so much for making time with us this morning. I know you got a busy morning ahead of you. We got to let you go. Thanks for everything, my friend. See you soon. Coming up next year on Opening Statements, here's what we've got for you.
She cried and told me she loved me, but I didn't think nothing of it.
They were searching for a location to dispose of the remains.
You know, it was a weird, strange dynamic. She loved her like a sister.
I just wish I could have given her the world.
More disturbing facts are coming out about the murder of Jessica Barnes and the psychological horror house that her husband allegedly created. Plus, we're breaking down the many motions ahead in Brian Koberger's upcoming trial. We're talking about whether testimony about bushy eyebrows will be coming in.
Yo, I'm gonna cover that, guys. Brian Koberger case. You gotta definitely cover.
Lori Daybell.
Already convicted for the murders of her children.
Doomsday Cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself.
On charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
She really thinks she's equipped to try this case.
She appears very sure of herself. I have real trial experience.
It's going to be a strange trial.
You don't have trial experience.
We'll see how it plays out.
The Cold watching conspiracy trial. I have no trial experience.
Monday morning on
TV. Like, I did mock trials in high school, so I have more experience than her.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old.
And my actually teacher was a lawyer.
Koberger on a warrant for murder of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kayla.
He was stalking them. He was hunting them.
You could tell there was something off about him.
A quadruple homicide in Moscow, Idaho. It's just unheard of.
This is our home. This is our university. This is our community.
These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students.
This was a violation of everything.
That is.
Let's talk about the Idaho student murders case now. It's what's trending in true crime. Brian Kohberger's the man charged with those fatal stabbings, and he was back in court on Wednesday. Both sides arguing what's called those motions in limine, the motions ahead of the trial. They really set the stage for everything, and that trial marker calendar is set to begin on August 11th. There were over 20 different motions taken up by the court. We want to talk about some of the key motions. So we pulled them out here. One of them coming up has to do with Brian Kohberger's autism diagnosis and if he is convicted, whether or not it can be used as a mitigating factor as to whether he should receive capital punishment. Let's talk about the killer's bushy eyebrows. We know that one of the surviving housemates said she saw the man wearing dark clothing, athletic build, wearing that dark mask, but saw the bushy eyebrows. Well, the defense doesn't want that coming in. The judge took the arguments under advisement. We'll see what he rules later. But we want to talk about that because we know that's really key in this description, right? We know that this surviving housemate didn't make a direct identification of Brian Kohberger. He's just the accused. So is it likely the judge is going to exclude her descriptor of the bushy eyebrows? Let's bring in attorney Dave Ehrenberg now. Dave, you're the perfect person to help me unpack all these things. So starting with that, the bushy eyebrows issue. Do you see this getting excluded?
It shouldn't, Julie, because it's relevant evidence. You have an eyewitness there, a surviving roommate, who said, I saw this individual wearing a mask, but these noticeably bushy eyebrows.
Eyebrows not bushy because that gets trimmed.
You could see in pictures taken of Kohberger right after a selfie he took right after the murder, a really creepy one, that he has bushy eyebrows. And it is noticeable that when he sits at the defendant's stand all made up, that those eyebrows have been trimmed. Let the jury decide whether that is evidence of his guilt. But to exclude it altogether, I think would be a mistake.
Excellent analysis, Dave. Thank you for that. I want to turn to something else here, and you know well the law on capital punishment, what it involves, having to make the weighty decision to seek such a punishment on a homicide case, having served as the state attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida. In this case, we know the state of Idaho is seeking the death penalty against him, and his defense team wants to use his autism as a mitigating factor. Do you see that being permissible?
One of the advantages, Julie, that defendants have is that you can list any mitigating factors. See, prosecutors have a list on the statute that says, here are the aggravators, and they have to prove at least one aggravator beyond a reasonable doubt. But when it comes to mitigators, the defense can choose anything. You remember that horrific murder at Parkland, not far from here, this Marjorie Stoneman Douglas massacre. The reason why the young man there escaped the death penalty was because they said, well, his mother smoked while he was in the womb. So you can come up with any crazy reason to try to get one or more jurors to say, yeah, let's not give him the death penalty. So they can try the autism, but the defense is saying it should be taken off the table. The autism should take the death penalty off the table entirely. It shouldn't even go to a jury. And of course, I strongly disagree with that. Having autism or even a slight autism, it's questionable whether he has autism at all, quite frankly. I mean, he's a doctoral student who acted pretty normally when the cop pulled him and his father over on that long drive back to Pennsylvania. But even if he does have some level of autism, that alone is not enough to take the death penalty off the jury, away from off the table and away from the jury. They should be able to decide.
Yes, Dave, I love it. Preach. I've got another issue I want to pick your brain on. That has to do with the 911 call placed by those housemates. We know this was made hours after the homicides were committed. Let's take a listen to some of it now.
911 location of your emergency. Something is happening. Something's happening in our house. We don't know what. And tell me exactly what's going on. One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up. Okay. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Hey, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
She's dead.
Okay, so the defense team wants to keep the 911 call out. The judge is going to give some guidance at a later date on whether it will be admitted, and the judge hinted at some possible redactions with its admittance, so we'll wait for that. And then there's the other issue of the Amazon click history for Brian Koberger. The defense wants to have excluded some purchases that he made. The state is pointing to deliberate actions that indicate premeditation because he bought a K-bar knife and a sheath to go along with it months prior to the homicides. And the judge will allow that Amazon evidence to come into the trial potentially. I don't believe there's been a ruling on that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think it's still up in the air. Okay, so Dave, let's take these one by one. The 911 call. The defense, I don't know what they want in. I think they want a trial without any evidence at all because, like, they just don't want to know. No talk about bushy eyebrows, no 911 call. The call's pretty harmless if you ask me. They're not saying it was Koberger in the house or anything like that. That's, they're just, there was a man in the house. We don't know that it's Koberger. What do you think? Do you think that it should all come in? Do you think it should come in with redactions? Give us your take, please.
I guess the defense argument is, Your Honor, this evidence is too harmful to our client. Well, too bad. Tough luck.
You should be a judge, Dave. Please be a judge next in your career.
I love to wear the black robe and have everyone stand up when I enter the room. It's a great gig to be a judge. Yes. Right? Julie, you and I feel the same way about this. It's like, come on. This is real evidence. This is a present sense impression. This is what the individuals there saw and felt at that time. It really shows the chaos. And it's real life. And also it debunks the whole myth that somehow the roommates were in on it, that somehow they were the killers themselves, or that they somehow were complicit. No, these people were just discombobulated. They were hungover. They'd been drunk the night before. They were freaking out, passing the phone around, having a neighbor come and help them because they could barely speak. And yes, that fact that they said that the roommate was passed out, I think that's what a lot of people would do rather than to admit that our roommate is dead. Who would ever want to say that? You say she's passed out. You don't want to ever believe that she was murdered. And so that's coming in. And then as far as the Amazon purchase, come on. You don't think it's relevant evidence that the defendant purchased the same type of knife and sheath that was used in the crime and then afterwards went back to try to buy another one? I think it's very damning evidence, and it will come in.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. You were right, Dave. I just got confirmation from our control room. Katie, thank you for this. Yes, the judge did make a ruling on that. There were so many motions the other day. It was hard to keep track. But yes, the judge says it can come in. So to your point, Dave, you were right. How vital is it to the state's case? Dave, what do you think? The fact that he buys this K-bar knife, exact same knife used, buys the sheath left behind with his DNA on it. Yikes.
It's very powerful evidence, but they've got so much other powerful evidence that even if this didn't come in, I think he'd still be found guilty. The number one best evidence is his own DNA. He can't get around that. He's not going to be able to say that someone planted his DNA there. His goose is cooked.
Sure is. Dave Ehrenberg, you're the best. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the program this morning. We missed you. Come back again soon, please.
Thanks so much, Julie.
Oh, sure. And still to come here on Opening Statements, this is what we've got.
She didn't see the signs that were there showing her that Mr. Barnes is a sociopath.
We're talking about justice for Jessica Barnes. This murder case is unbelievable. Brandon Barnes said to have created such a controlling environment in the home that police say he victimized multiple people. They say other women, not just his wife. And our psychology expert weighs in on Cult Mom. We're seeing a lot of Lori's personality. Does she have a personality disorder? Dr. Sue weighs in. Welcome back to Opening Statements. This morning, we're spotlighting the murder of 20-year-old Jessica Barnes as the quest for justice for Jessica continues. And we're learning more about one of the housemates who's being accused of being involved in Jessica's brutal death. So follow me here. Barnes's roommate, Kendall Mims, appeared in court on Thursday. And there's another roommate, Victoria Tippett, who appeared in court on Monday. Jessica's husband, Brandon, is being accused of strangling Jessica to death and then setting her body on fire. Investigators are saying the other housemates, Mims and Tippett, have admitted to helping Brandon Barnes move Jessica's body to Lake Hartwell in South Carolina. Now, Mims has a child with Barnes. In court on Thursday, Mims' attorney described the control that Brandon Barnes exerted over the 3 women in the home.
Whenever she would mention that she was unhappy or that she wanted to leave or that she didn't want to be there anymore, he told her repeatedly, "You will never see your daughter again," leaving her to guess as to whether that meant he was going to take their daughter and leave, or if he was going to kill her, or if he was going to kill their daughter.
So remember, they're all living together in this house, allegedly under his control. So these 2 other women, Mims, the one he's got the child with, and Tippett, they're both charged with accessory after the fact and with obstruction of justice as these charges relate to Jessica's murder. Now, the judge granted a $75,000 bond for Mims. No bond yet has been given to Ms. Tippett, and Brandon Barnes remains behind bars this morning. I want to bring in now a very special guest who's been following this case so closely. He's an investigator for Porter, and also he has been very close with Jessica's family and representing them as this case progresses through the system. So happy to welcome back Troy Stiles on the program. Troy, nice to see you again, albeit we wish it wasn't under the circumstances that we have here with this homicide. So could we start, please, with Jessica? Jessica's mom did something that might have stunned some case watchers if you really don't know the intricacies of this one, but she even was pushing the court to give Ms. Mims a bond. Would you explain that for us, please?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. So Miss Varvara, Cecilia, Jessica's mother, we saw this kind of in the middle of the search for Jessica. Cecilia shifted her emotions really from anger to empathy. And she even sent food to the defendants while we were searching. And even though she knew that they had something to do with Jessica's murder, but leading up to this court hearing, she really was advocating for bond for Kendall. She was concerned about Kendall's mental health due to the abuse that she went through living with Brandon. And then also she wanted Kendall to be able to care for her infant child. So she wrote a beautiful letter to the judge asking for the bond in this case so that Kendall could be released from jail at least during this time and go into home detention and really address her mental health needs that she felt like she needed to do so much.
Wow, Troy, what a tremendous amount of...
Yo, what the fuck? I hear that shit happen.
Kendall to be able to care for her infant child. So she wrote a beautiful letter to the judge asking for the bond in this case so that Kendall could be released from jail at least during this time and go into home detention and really address her mental health needs that she felt like she needed to do so much.
Wow, Troy, what a tremendous amount of grace and compassion being exhibited by Jessica's mom. That can't be easy to do. I mean, she was wronged in the worst way, having her daughter murdered, and yet she's showing compassion for these other defendants, in particular Ms. Mims with the baby. That is just, wow. That's like next to godliness, if you ask me, to show that kind of compassion to someone. I want to play a clip for you, Troy. This is something you're familiar with, and I think to impress upon everybody watching this case and wondering, what happened to Jessica. The idea that there was control going on in that house is like the understatement of the century. Let's listen to what Kendall's attorney told the court was what was happening in the house.
Kendall, unfortunately, saw a lot of violence against Jessica. But Mr. Barnes drove a wedge between her and Jessica, making both of them feel as if they had to compete for his love and affection. And if he started being too nice to one of them, Judge, it was just a psychological horror movie as to what happened to this young lady and to Miss Jessica Barnes.
A psychological horror movie, the attorney says. Troy, tell us what you know about that, please.
A horror movie would be a great way to sum it up. I mean, Brandon had so much control over all of the girls, especially Kendall and Jessica. The attorney described Brandon as pouring alcohol into Kendall's mouth, forcing her to drink it, performing sexual acts on her, even when she would beg him to stop. Anytime that Kendall was away from Brandon, she had to have earbuds in her ears and she had to be on the phone with him. Even before Kendall came to live with Brandon, which they described as she was stolen or taken hostage in the middle of the night. Her mom called him on FaceTime with Kendall, and Kendall had already gone to sleep. And so he was watching her sleep. He kept her drugged, and then he would send pictures of her to her mother of Kendall completely inebriated and drugged. So he had total control over her. He would take her to work, and he would sit in the lobby of her work and watch her while she worked. She had no time. She couldn't even go next door to her grandfather's to do laundry without being on the phone with Brandon so that he could hear if she were to try to tell that she was being abused. I don't think anybody really knew the massive amount of abuse that was going on.
That's bad.
But we know now it was horrific, and there was nothing they could do about it. He killed many animals in front of her to cause fear, and he would torture these animals just to show her what could happen to her.
Oh my, that's like next level psychological abuse, Troy. I know you know this. You follow this case so closely. For anybody unfamiliar, Troy did the only interview that exists with Brandon Barnes, before he was arrested. And this is when his wife was missing. It was just a missing persons case. And we played some of it the last time you were on the show, Troy. For anybody who missed the segment, what would you say your feeling was walking away after talking to Brandon that day?
Just master manipulator. That's all. Master manipulator. He's good at it. He is an artist at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could feel it, even as somebody just independent from this case, a journalist, just like you could feel that as he was talking to you.
Yeah, he definitely tried to, it was all about him. I'm asking about Jessica. Jessica's missing. This is his wife, by the way. And he really didn't have any empathy about Jessica being missing. It was all about Brandon. And it always is.
That kind of behavior, I hate to say this, but for someone with these charges, it does fall in line, the sociopathic type of behavior you're describing, narcissistic, just terrible. We will leave it here for the time being. Troy Stiles, great work following this case, advocating for Jessica's family and doing the investigative reporting. Thank you for taking the time to come back on with us. We'll look forward to continuing the conversation again. Take care. And still ahead here on Opening Statements, we're going to talk about someone else that perhaps is sociopathic, Lori Vallow Daybell. We know she's done 3 murders. Did she do a 4th? We're going to have psychology expert Dr. Sue Kornbluth on the show next to analyze Lori's personality.
I'm confessing to a murder. I did it. I'm your worst nightmare, David.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Sunday at 8. Only on Court TV.
Does Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was brave. You know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage coming soon following jury selection on Court TV.